Hey guys, so good morning and cheers. It's a good day. I can't believe how fast summer's gone. I just wanted to talk to you this morning about something that I think is pretty cool. I'll just get right to the point. I see a lot of people, and I hear a lot of people, and I see stuff on social media where people are really afraid of AI and afraid of what it's doing and afraid it's going to take over. And there's a lot of unanswered questions for sure, but there is going to be, and there already is, some huge benefits to using it for lots of different things. So what I'm talking about is artificial intelligence plus machine learning. It's two different things. Um, when we start applying that to medical things and medical procedures and studies, it becomes really fascinating. I mean, just look at I think everybody can envision radiology and looking at x-rays and radiographs and deciphering what may or may not be wrong or what's going on. And we've all heard over the years, at least recently, you should get a second opinion or whatever. What if you could get 1,000 opinions or 10,000 or 100,000 or a million opinions on that x-ray? And that's what this AI is going to be capable of, and it already is in some regards, because we can get input from different radiologists on similar radiographs and have look at their interpretation and use their interpretations to train these AI models, to train them about how to, when you see something like this, then this is a response. And when you start doing that and then you learn from the AI, that's really crazy stuff. That's really valuable stuff. So it's like instead of getting a second opinion, you're getting, a million opinions. Now, it still takes a human being to say, yeah, even though this is looks like the consensus, do we really need to cut on somebody? So we still need human beings to kind of tap the brakes on some of this stuff. But the ability for this stuff to give us more and better information is huge. And this really hit home the other day. I was looking at a study, and I just want to use this as a number one to help you understand the importance and the powerfulness of AI that is going to have the impact it's going to have on society, but also wellness. And so, what this study did is they developed this. It was called a brain age clock. So you can develop parameters to look to train the AI to look for certain things, and you can develop an algorithm, which is just a system of analyzing data, right? And you can develop an algorithm for all kinds of different things. So they developed something they called a brain age clock. So in other words, they took thousands and thousands of MRIs and they input them into the AI, and they looked at like people with dementia, people with cognitive loss, people with seizures, all of these different things, and then a bunch of normal people, and they were able to look at the relative age or determine a relative age of brains when they took, just from the MRI alone, which is, it's not that's not that fantastical to think of, because the brain gives off signals. There's all kinds of interpretation of data that's going on in your brain. And so they developed this brain age clock. And then what they did is they took a group of people, and this is important, they were all over 60 years old. Okay. So that's the group of people that I'm interested most in helping, right, to navigate and make that last third of your life the best third of your life. So they took a bunch of people that were over 60, and they broke them basically into three groups, and they told all of them not to change anything else. But the first group, they said, don't change anything in your life. We just are going to take a scan, baseline, and a year and 2 years later. And then they told the next group, we don't want to change you to change anything else. Don't change your diet. Don't change your sleep. Don't change anything else. But we want you to resistance train. It didn't matter if it was bands or body weight or weights, but we want you to resistance train, and we want you to use, they gave them a protocol that was high weight, low reps. Okay, there's all this debate about which is better, high weight, low reps, low weight, high reps, whatever is better. So they had that group do that, And they had the other groups, they said the same thing: don't change anything. We want you to do really high repetitions and low weight. And so they did a baseline MRI scan on those folks, and they did it a year later, and they did it 2 years later. And so what's really cool about this is, I've noticed intuitively over 50 years of going to the gym that certain people doing certain things, right? You look at people doing what I call chronic cardio, just going and going and going on the treadmill and dripping sweat, and their body composition really never changes. I've looked at people that lifted super heavy, and even a lot of guys that were on steroids, when they were younger, and now they're all busted up, and they can't lift heavier. They got all these injuries, and I've looked at guys that kind of did some cross training, a little bit of running, or what I call high intensity interval training. And that could be running or on a bike or on a treadmill or elliptical or a rowing machine, where you're getting heart rate up and then you're bringing it back down, which in my opinion is something that's so important, because you're putting these mild stressors on the system, and that's what causes it to grow back. So I've noticed these things intuitively over the years, that if this person does this, then this seems to be the outcome. But we've never really had any empirical evidence, any data, anything that shows, yeah, that, even though you think that's what's going on, that's what's actually going on. So they did this study, baseline brain scan, 1 year later, 2 years later, group with no training, a group with only resistance training, that was the only change they made, with high reps, low weight, another group with high weight, low reps, and then they did the final MRI 2 years later with their brain age clock algorithm. And here's what they found that was, part of it was, again, intuitive. It's not rocket science, right? The people that didn't change their lifestyle, so they're eating a standard American diet, they weren't really exercising. It's just the average normal American, right? That did not add any resistance training. Their brains aged at what you would expect to be a normal rate of decline over the years. That's what we accept as normal in our society today. I'm here to tell you that shouldn't be normal, but that's what's accepted. But for that group of people that didn't change anything, their brains aged at what you would expect a normal rate to be. But here's the cool thing: the people that resistance trained, and the other amazing thing about this is it didn't matter. The result was the same, whether you did high weight, low reps, or low weight, high reps. It didn't matter, as long as you train at a moderate intensity, which I've been preaching all through the sermon. People ask, well, how do I know if I'm doing that? Well, is your t-shirt wet when you're not dripping wet, not wring out sweat wet, but damp? Is your t-shirt wet? Do you work the muscle you're trying to target until it starts to burn a little bit? That's moderate intensity. You can't just go to the gym and do a set of dumbbell presses and then be on your damn phone for 10 or 15 minutes and never even get your heart rate up, right? That doesn't work. But for those people that exercise with the moderate intensity, regardless of high weight, low reps, low weight, high reps, regardless of that, their brains, when they measured it 2 years later, were on average 2 years younger. Let me say that again. Nothing else changed, but they trained for 2 years with moderate intensity resistance training, and their brains were 2 years. They actually aged backwards. Okay. Now, yeah, that was an average. Some were a little more, some were a little less. But when we look at the implications of that, it's absolutely huge. And it's what I've been preaching all through the sermon. It's like, you don't have to do a Navy SEAL, kill you kind of workout. You don't have to do a Spartan race every day. You don't have to, go to CrossFit and just kill yourself every day, especially as we get older, over 55, 60 kind of thing. But you do have to do some sort of resistance training because of the signals it sends to the cell. When you stress the body, it sends signals to the cells to get stronger. Not just your muscles, not just how you look in the mirror, but your whole neuromuscular system, your balance, your tendons, your ligaments, your joints. It's no wonder that there's so many hip and knee replacements going on these days, because the muscles, tendons, ligaments that are supporting these joints are all weak. And the foods that we're eating on average, not me and not the people in my tribe, but the foods that most people eat are highly inflammatory. And that there's even a word for that. It's called inflammaging. So I hope that makes sense. I hope it makes you at least think about, I know it's annoying and I know it seems like, even doing resistance training with resistance bands at home, some people think, well, that's not going to move the needle. Absolutely, that will. It's, you have to do it with a bit of intensity. You can't be watching The View or something, which I can't believe anybody watches that stupid ass show anyhow. But you can't be sitting there watching TV and do a resistance band movement of some sort, and then sit around for 10 minutes and go get a latte or something. I mean, you've got to do it with moderate intensity. It doesn't matter if it's in your basement, in your garage, on your living room floor, at a gym. It doesn't matter, as long as you do resistance training. That can be body weight, bands, dumbbells, barbells, whatever you need. Do some resistance, get a wet t-shirt, and get your heart rate up occasionally. Get your heart rate up and let it come back down. That, training your cardiovascular system, your VO2 max, the amount of oxygen that you can actually process. It's those simple things, but they're simple, but they're not easy, right? They're simple to do and they're simple not to do. And so, but I just want you to understand those little things done on a daily basis. If you look at any people that are centenarians, that are 100 years old or more, and you ask them about the things they do, most of them, not all of them, but most of them eat pretty clean. I would say almost all of them walk daily. And if you talk to most of them, they're like, yeah, I do some push-ups every day, not occasionally, once a week or whatever. I do some push-ups, I do some sit-ups, whatever they can do, some wall sits, some air squats. That a lot of them will sit on a chair. It doesn't have to be this crazy complicated thing, but you have to do some resistance training, and not only your body will look better in the mirror, but your brain's going to be 2 years younger. That's powerful stuff. Okay. And there's going to be more and more of this research coming out, I promise you, because the things that we've been noticing intuitively over the years, that if you do this, you get that. Now we're starting to be able to prove that with AI, machine learning. And then when you take all of that and you use the AI to train the AI, and you start using quantum computing, it's crazy the amount of information, good information, that we're going to get. So I hope that makes sense today. Cheers. Go do some sort of resistance training, not for the only benefit of how you look in the mirror. That's kind of a cool side effect, but do it for your brain, do it for your family, do it for your kids, do it for your community. We need strong men out there. So take care. I hope that makes sense. And if you've got any questions about that, or you want to know how to do that and dial it in specifically, that's what we do here. DM me Vital, and we'll have a private conversation about your particular situation and how to navigate that, elegantly. That's what we do, and we've helped hundreds of men do that now. So we'd love to help you. So reach out if we can help. Take care. Make it a great day.